So this morning I wanted to talk to you a little bit as we're coming into this time of Lent about what sin is and how it affects us and what God's promise is through it. I have a couple of illustrations here for you. Hopefully I'll keep them in order. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. This is a mug. A friend of mine gave it to me in 2010. It was handmade. It's kind of weird looking it doesn't have a handle. It's got this little thing in here, and it doesn't look like it'd be really stable, but it is. As long as you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it doesn't work real well. You'd have to think like this. But I'm right-handed. See the care that she took in getting me this. The Lord's Prayer has it open. What's it say? It says, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Hallowed, hallowed, hallowed. Do you know what hallowed means? Holy. What does holy mean? Hallowed, right. Excellent. There's a book in the Bible called Job. A lot of people who are freshmen to the Bible call it Job because it's spelled Job. And it's a lot of fun if you use one of the audio readers on like tablets or phones and you read it, because if you have the computer read it to you, it's Job did this and Job did that. And for obsessive compulsive people, like a short circuit, I can't even hear the story because he's saying the name wrong. So hopefully, if anybody's watching this video online, you'll correct that from Apple or Android or whatever so that it's correct. It's Job. Job was a guy, and Job was the most righteous, according to the Bible, the story. And what's interesting about Job, little side note, bonus. Job is thought by most scholars in the world, right? New Testament, Old Testament, Jewish, Christian, Islam, whoever. Job is the oldest book historically in the Bible. So it was written before Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It was penned earlier than all of that. So it's this story. It's a story about a guy, and the guy was like super righteous. He was a good guy. You all are good. I know most of you. You're all good people. He was a good guy, trying to do the right thing. All of a sudden, the story starts off with this council in heaven that's happening, right? God has called a council of the gods or a council of the high angels, or who we're not quite sure exactly who is at the table other than God. And the story goes on where Satan comes in to the council and has a little dialogue about God, with God, and God brings up Job. God says, Job, he's like the most righteous guy on all the earth. And then God gives Satan permission to test Job. Like, you can do anything you want except kill him. So Satan goes down, and Satan wipes out his family, wipes out all of his property, infects the guy with sores that are horrifically painful. And he goes out in the desert and sits and mourns. And in all of that, he stays righteous. He has a couple of buddies. They come out and they start pushing him on, what'd you do? Right? What in the world did you do that God would inflict this on you? this is I'm all heavy, right? So let's lighten it up a minute. Have you ever had that conversation with somebody? Or have you ever said that? Like something bad happens to a good friend of yours, and you're like, what in the world did you do to get this put on you? Like it's like that karma principle. Job did nothing, but they're like, what's in your closet? And chapters and chapters in this book go on with these friends just hammering him. Like, what did you do wrong? And it was in good intent, right? Because if he would confess and just come clean, then everything would start to get better in his life, according to them. And he didn't. And then this other friend comes along and he starts hammering him. And they get to the point where Job just breaks, and he starts yelling at God. Like, how could you do this to me? What did I ever do? And God answers him back. It's a really interesting read if you get a chance. God answers him back and starts answering him back with questions like, who are you to question me? Were you here when I created the foundations of the earth? Do you understand anything? I say that because we're here recognizing we're worshiping a holy God. A God who created all that is, all that was, all that will ever be. Now, today is going to be really challenging for some of you, and I want to invite you into this tension. I don't have all the answers. I'm here with you trying to make the best sense of it I can. So Job has this argument with God, and God answers him back. Other times in the Bible, there are things that we don't understand. And then there are some passages where we get answers to things we don't understand that we might not like. This mug, it was created by a potter. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to spin clay. I don't even know if that's the right terminology for it, right? But you put like wet clay, and this thing spins, and you put your fingers in it, and you get stuff like this. I don't know how you do it. And then you gotta let it get hard, and I don't know how soft stuff stays like this. Like I think it was squashed. I don't get it, but some people do it. In the Bible, there's a story about a potter and clay, and God is like the potter, and we are like the clay. And what's really interesting about the illustration is that it comes back around, and it says, who are we as clay to call out to the potter and tell the potter how it needs to be done or how we should be shaped? Can you imagine? You're doing it, and then the clay says, oh, no, I got a better idea. Try this. Right? We laugh, but we are here worshiping a holy and righteous God who has done things that we can't even fathom in our mind, no matter how hard we try. And whether we understand it or not, and whether we even like it or not, God is still God. Okay, you with me so far? There are a couple of things that I want to share with you that I'm not going to because they get even more challenging. Let's talk about sin. Anybody got a good definition of sin? I have one if you don't, so don't feel bad. I'll give it to you. Go ahead. Okay, that's a good definition. Some people would say anything that's unloving to other people, right? Some people would say anything that, I sometimes say, anything that we do that destroys relationship. right? If we do something that destroys or tears down or tears at a relationship that we have with God or with people around us, I would say that could, most of the time, that's sin. I love my brother. My brother's a couple years younger than me. I picked on him all the time. I sinned against him all the time because I pick on him. And every once in a while, he'll come back at me and say, well, I don't know if that's exactly right. And when I told him that, that's exactly what he did. But so you might not agree with me either on that. But basically, the Orthodox Christian definition is a sin is a transgression against God's law. Okay? It means you don't follow God's law. That gets challenging at a couple of levels. Do you know why? Because the law has changed over the years. What was the first law of the Bible? Nope. Good guess, though. First law? Nope. We read it this morning. Don't eat the fruit from the tree in the center of the garden. One rule. You can have anything you want. Don't eat from that tree. And what'd they do? Okay, so that's that. We don't want to get into that yet. But so they blew, right? So they ate from the tree. So then what happens? Then how many rules do we get? 10, right? 10, right? And then how many rules does that turn into for the scholars out there? How many? No, close. 613. Yeah. 613. So we went from 1 rule to 10 rules to 613 rules to then what does Jesus say? Mm-hmm. She's right. Jesus gives us 1 rule. He said, love others as I have loved you. But in the midst of that, especially in Matthew chapter 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, he takes sin to the point where you, if you're honest with yourself, well, it doesn't matter what you think of yourself. You're a sinner. You're a sinner. I don't care how you cut it. I'm here because I'm a sinner in need of a Savior. This is my second illustration. It's a Sierra Club advertisement. I'm an environmentalist. Do you like Sierra Club? Probably. I hope you do. If you don't, it's okay. I love the Sierra Club. I don't like this bag. Do you know why I don't like this bag? No? Leather. I'm also a PETA person. So don't judge me. I have leather on. I'm not happy about it. My Lenten commitment is to get rid of all the leather in my life. Because I already don't eat meat. No big deal. I'm not making an advertisement about what my goals in life are. But here's the thing that I want to point out. Often, our best motives in life come in conflict with some of our other motives in life. I support both organizations with time and with energy and with money. And there are times where I get something like this, and I'm like, dude, why couldn't they just put cloth straps on it? But they didn't. But I'm not stopping environmentalist causes in my life, and I'm still part of the organization. That's a good idea. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I will. So here's what happens in our lives. You don't have to look at that anymore for all the people that don't support Sierra Club. I've been doing boot camp, so I can do this now. This right here, it's an illustration of our sin. And every day, I go around and I sin. See, Jesus says that the law says, in the Old Testament, that one of the 10 biggies, right? One of the 10 biggies is adultery is a sin. But Jesus says that even if you look upon another with a lustful eye, that's a sin. Dare I talk about boot camp with women in tight-fitting clothes? How about Jesus says if you murder someone, you've heard that that's a sin, but if you even speak angrily or unkindly to your neighbor, then that's just as bad as murder. Jesus talks a lot about greed and wealth. Did you ever consider when you drove here this morning that could be a sin? I might make you feel you guys are going to feel great after going out of here today. But at least you don't have a thing hanging around your neck. Here, okay, so you have a car, right? You get in the car. It's all good. You drive here. Let's not talk about how many people in the world don't have cars or can't afford cars, but we have a car. We drive here. Some of us have 2 cars. And did you ever think about the parts in the car and how the car was made? The paint on the car and the chemicals that are used in the paint on the car and what the environmental impact is on the production of all that, or the production of the parts, or where the parts are made and whether the people there. We just got this thing in New Jersey where a big thing about minimum wage not meeting the basic necessities of life. So over the next 5 years, we're going to see minimum wage go up to $15 an hour. What about the wages of the people that made the car parts that you drive, or the people that refine the oil or the gas or the antifreeze or the stuff in the car, and what the environmental impacts are on that, and how that impacts people with asthma and people in temperate zones where El Nino affects, like all of this stuff. Is that a sin to you? Do you feel like it? When you walked in your home, or when you came in here this morning, the walls of this building are super insulated. They're made out of dry-vit. I don't know if you know what that is. I didn't know what that is until I got here and I needed to know what dry-vit was. The roof has styrofoam pressed in between, and there's paint on the walls. Like, who made all that stuff, and how much were they paid, and what's the environmental impact, and how does that impact you and the neighbors around the plant? And by us buying it, does it impact, whoa. It almost paralyzes us to not be able to do anything except think about how we're sinning. The clothes you wear. Who made them? Where'd you buy them? How much were they paid? Yeah. I can't do a 5th one because I haven't been to boot camp long enough. But what happens? What happens to us? I'll tell you what happens. The sin becomes so heavy around my neck that I can't handle it anymore. So we get smart, right? We are really smart and resourceful people. We end up getting a cart that we can carry around with us, and we can throw this up on the cart, and we can wheel the cart around, and when the cart gets too full, what do? We buy a truck, and we throw all our sin in the truck, and we can still go about our day and do what we need to do, because we just get good at ignoring the sin in our lives. I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of you have all the answers. And I don't know if we're intended to have all the answers, because we worship a holy and righteous God that created the entire universe, that created us, that designed us to do one thing. And Jesus told us what that was to do. Jesus told us it was to love one another as he loved us, sacrificially. And the whole Lenten journey to the cross, right? Good Friday is where we come and we consider our mortal natures in the midst of an incredible God, an immortal God, and in preparation for Easter Sunday, where we celebrate God told us, just go and love. Just go and love. You might not have all the answers, but the sin in your life, the sin that you commit knowingly, commit it. The sin that you commit unknowingly, thanks, Pastor, I didn't even think about my car and whether that's a sin. You might not know it. I worry all the time about saying something to someone and how I said it and what I said and how that upset them, whether it upset them or not. There's sin that you commit knowingly. There's sin that you commit unknowingly. There's some sin you commit by doing it. There's sin you commit by not doing something. All that stuff. This week the Methodist Church we've been wrestling for 40 years about human sexuality, and it's become such a binary argument. And it's not a binary issue. Binary meaning black or white, ones or zeros, however you want to talk about the spectrum, two sides. I don't know. I don't know if anybody has the answer, but I can tell you that what happened at General Conference during the week in St. Louis with the global church, there was a lot of sin going around because there was a lot of anger and hatred. And we're called beyond that. We're called to be a people who are open and recognizing that we're not perfect and we don't have all the answers, and we're just trying to figure it out together. But God provided an answer for us. So whether you believe that driving your car to church is a sin or not, whether you believe that, a heavier, weightier topic, whether you believe that homosexuality is a sin or not, we're all welcome at the table of God as we try and figure it out together. Because, nobody raised their hand for perfect, so you're all sinners and I'm a sinner. And we're all going to come together at the communion table celebrating the fact that Christ has provided a way so we don't have to lug this around. We don't have to be burdened by our sin. We don't have to carry it, figure out creative ways to carry more and more so we can go about our day. We just need to come to God openly and confess that we're broken, that we need Him, and that we don't understand everything that He does any more than a clay can talk back to the potter. So I hope that this sermon has helped you to think about sin in your life as we start this Lenten journey. And I want to encourage you that regardless of sin in your life or sin in this world or sin in the church even, that God is God, and we all can have our sins and burdens removed by just giving them to God. And then we can get back to our prime directive. Loving each other the way Christ loved us. Amen.